Hi, Mark here from the Tangibound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangibound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangibound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangiboundNetwork.com and see if Tangibound Network is right for you.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, so stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Well, welcome to the Crazy Life, everyone. My name is Jen. I'll be your hostess for the day. And with me, as always, we have Bryan and Henno. Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey. So, how are you guys doing? What's been going on? What's... Jumping right on in.
Yeah, that's what we normally
Mine's
do.
been great. It's exactly. Mine's exactly the same.
You know, sometimes...
Just go listen to last week's episode. But that's a really good thing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Like, it really is. Like, what have I done? I've gotten a ton. I got so much done this weekend on music stuff, even though maybe I don't have any results yet to show for it, but there's been work done and I don't feel like it was a waste of time.
Good.
You know, even if I had to go back and redo something, it was like I'm learning, you know, and I'm not, you know, sometimes I get down, you know, because of it, but I'm not. It's been like every hour spent has been great. And like, I've just felt really good every day. You know, like it's weird to suddenly feel like I know what I need to do in my life. Like I have that confidence every day I wake up.
Yeah.
And I know that's probably how you're supposed to feel, but it's an unusual feeling for me.
Yeah. Well,
That's wonderful.
And you're right, because I rarely wake up with that. So I you know, that kind of shows that, you know, well,
I mean, I spent so much of my life not knowing literally who I am, let alone what I'm supposed to do.
right.
Yeah.
You know, what's my future? Where, you know, I don't even want to get into like the concepts of like purpose.
Right. Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah.
You know, so having a day where having, you know, days that I wake up and like that, and at the end of the day I go to sleep and I feel good like that. Those are just giant wins for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it really, you know, and what was really wild, was really good, from a relationship standpoint is, you know, Sharon's not really happy with where she is work career wise right now. And for a while there, she was coming in and just, all she did is just complain.
Yeah.
And the hard part about it for me was just because of the work I've done with codependency, it was like I'm listening to a codependent, you know, that she has a codependent relationship with her work. And, you know, and I think she just wanted to, because of being involved in 12-step programs, I want to hear solutions.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Right.
I don't want to hear problems. If it's the same conversation we had before and you're not applying any solutions, I really don't want to hear about it. You're just whining. I'm like, here, have some cheese, you know, and I don't say it like that, but I basically said I don't want to hear about it anymore.
Yeah.
If there are no solutions. But what was great is we did have a conversation. You know, she said she really wanted to talk, and I was like, okay, let's talk. And we had a really great talk. And you know, and for me, that was my other win, was just to not shut doors completely, is to always allow them to be open, because you never know. You never know when a conversation might go different. I can start it and stop it.
Yeah.
You know, what's the worst thing I do is to say, well, this is going where it usually goes, and so we need to stop now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it was great to have more of an open conversation, have a dialogue again, and I was able to touch base on that. It's really wild how, and it's not a judgment call. It was just a kind of an observation where, you know, it's like, wow, you take on work like it's a relationship, and it makes sense. I mean, I might do it too. I just don't know.
I definitely did at one point. So, well, more than one point. Yeah. Like the first one that popped into my head was actually like when I owned a business, but I was like, well, anyone who owns a business is in a codependent relationship. Yeah, sure, I mean, you can't, that's part of the nature of the beast a bit. So, but then, but the video stores I worked at too, I did that so much. Yeah. And again, I'm just barely starting to dip my toe into learning about the codependency stuff, and I was already like, yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I've been really, and part of that is just also that when I feel useful and I feel like I'm being productive, I feel like I can be useful to others.
Yeah, sure.
And it's been great, even work-wise, feeling that way. Not having, a day going by and not experiencing fear and anxiety in any way, shape, or form those are miracles to me.
Yeah.
Right.
They just are. I mean, I at some point I should just it. I would like that to be the new normal.
Yeah.
But I still don't believe it.
Yeah. Because you've still got the old, thinking like of the, well, if I accept this, it'll mess it up. It'll jinx it.
Yeah. The rug will get pulled off. Yeah. However you want to phrase it.
Right.
Yeah,
even though there's no evidence, or realistically, you could look at it the other and go, well, yeah, it will at some point, because life's gonna life you. You can't avoid it. So, there's nobody who just coasts through life and every day is, magical and whatever. We've all got our issues. So yeah.
And it gets pointed out at me all the time. If I look at how much of my life I was in active alcoholism and everything that goes along with it, compared to how much of my life I wasn't, well, I'm about halfway there.
Right.
I'm at a halfway point. I did pretty much 20 years of some sort of alcoholism.
Yeah.
And I've done 10 years sober.
Right. And I'm doing the same thing math-wise because, it's like I know of me being depressed since I was 12. It probably goes further back than that, but that's where I can really remember it, So, and I'm 38, so, I've got all those years of dealing with it, and even though the last few I've been trying to get better, but it's still, overall I've got 5 or 6 years of trying to work on myself versus all those years of, the doubt and the fear and all that kind of stuff. So it's why I've tried really hard to, forgive myself more, because it's like, look, you're still in the baby steps phase a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like I'm starting to take a little longer strides, but you know what I mean? It's like in the overall scope of this, I'm still pretty young as far as this goes. So I get you on that.
And one thing that I wanted to bring up, just because it was, again, something that we talked about on other podcasts when we talked about suicide, is I had heard about, Chester from Linkin Park, his last day. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know this, but he had been sober for a while.
Yeah.
His last day he drank.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like he put away half a bottle.
Oh, wow.
And it really hit me because it hit me in a couple of ways. A, it's just a reminder. This is why I don't pick up at all, because I love getting dark when I drank.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved that. It was part of, it was the appeal of alcohol to me a lot was to, get down in a hole, put some music on that was really disturbing or just emotional, let's just say.
Yeah.
That put me in the right mood. And
it's the comfort zone.
It really is. It's a comfort zone. For years and years, it was a comfort zone.
Totally get it.
Yeah. That's a great way of phrasing it. And so, it really hit me because it was just like, oh wow, I know where he went then. I mean, I don't know where he went because he obviously suffers from mental illness on top of, substance abuse and blah, blah, blah. But I know what started, I know what his foots down that path were. Yeah. I get that. I can relate to it. And for me, it was a reminder. Okay. Yeah. That's why I don't pick up the first drink.
Yep. And it's another reminder that, that it's not like at some point you don't declare victory, Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. There's no finish line.
Yep.
And it's also for me a little bit of an explanation. It's like, okay, like, I don't know, like the whole Chris Cornell thing. I couldn't tell you. There's nothing to relate there, but him now I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that I understand. If he'd been sober and he'd really been in a good spot and everyone said he was and people say that he was, he was, and what he did is he went and drank for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
Anything could have happened. Now I get it.
It's true.
Like how could you have 6 kids? Well, I heard somebody say it today and it was just a podcast I was listening to and I'm not going to say anything to them. They're young guys. They don't know. But I'm like, you have no idea. You don't know. You've never been there.
Right.
If you did, you wouldn't say what you just said.
Yep. That's why I've been so vocal whenever I see posts from people talking about, how selfish suicide and stuff is. And it's like, it is, but you have to understand the mindset to understand why, as weird as this sounds, it is, but it's not at the same time. Like, it's really not. And it's, it's more about, you're just in such a bad place that it just needs to end. And you just can't fathom going on,
Almost self-preservation than it is self-destruction.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? It becomes one of those things that the only way to preserve who I am is to end who I am.
Yeah.
Before I just can't take any more type of the feeling. Yeah. So it's horrible.
Yep.
If anyone does that.
I'll finish with there, but for the grace of God go I, and gratitude. I'm grateful for the life I have and for and the fact that I'm not in a risky place like that any longer.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. We're thankful for that too, sir. But I'll go next. So kind of what you were talking about is kind of touched on a couple things. Work has been a very big presence in my life, last week and this week. And it has become very clear to me the more I've gone down this path and working the crazy amounts of hours and stuff, I'm getting hyper connected and with my job. And it's becoming more of my world than it should be. Mm-hmm. I'm losing perspective.
Okay.
And everything, it's becoming kind of what you were saying, like a codependent relationship where, it's like, oh my God, if I'm not there, who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? How is it going to survive? And all of this stuff starts taking over my world. And
for those of you that can't observe this, it was the visual version of pie hole.
Sorry,
Shut
folks. It. Sorry, folks. My husband is on the phone and he walked through the room. So I apologize for that. But needless to say, anyways, so work is becoming, very, consuming. And Saturday, I was working a full shift on Saturday after 5 days of full shifts, and I perceived something in my perception of it was very negative. So I shot a message to my boss and said, I've had enough. I think this is, directed at me. And I took it as very, very negative. His response, there's only a few of us. Everyone's doing the best that they can. Do the best you can, then go home. And that's literally was that much, that to the point. And it was almost equivalent to a smack upside the head. And it really hit home to me. And I'm like, he's 100% right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Here I am internalizing things. I'm putting putting emotions to facts, which don't have emotions, and I'm turning things into things that may or may not be, so what? If somebody does do something at me and it is intentional to cause me more work, what are you going to do about it?
That's true. That's true.
So what? You're going to do your job.
Yeah.
You're going to go in, you're going to do your job to the best of your ability, and you're going to go home and you're going to focus on your at-home life. No more of this texting people outside, work people outside of work to have work conversations outside of work and stuff like that. No.
Great point.
When I'm at home, I need to be at home, and I cannot let that consume me.
Yeah.
A, it's not my job. B, I'm not getting paid for that type of consumption, life consumption.
Yeah, no one's paying you for that time.
Yep.
No. So here I am taking on all of this on my shoulders for what reason? No. It's my job. It is not my life.
Right.
And I do really well nowadays. It was really bad in the beginning. In my beginning of my career, I really struggled with this. Now I've really gotten to a good point with it where I'm fairly relaxed in general about my work, and I'm able to make the separation between the two. But
this is also a self-worth thing.
Yeah.
Like knowing that there's a value in your time away from work, and, they're not paying you for that time. Like you said, it's like, well, why then it's mine. I shouldn't give it away. It is amazing how a lot of times people will give away their time like that and not give it a second thought, because,
right.
They need it's like, well, if they need it so bad, let them pay you for it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really,
Exactly. And that's, and this week, my manager scheduled us a traditional 40-hour week schedule.
Okay.
So, will I stick to it?
Find out next week. Yeah.
I do get paid for overtime, so I'm not giving them hours. But will I stick around longer than I am scheduled to make sure things get done?
Yeah.
Quite possibly. But will I give them anything once I leave there? I'm leaving there.
Yep, good.
And
I'm not trying to be, I don't want to sound like I'm being a jerk about people like, oh, well, as soon as you walk out, but at the same time, I kind of am, because there's a value. Like I know I've had this conversation with you before, Jen, about how, like when it's time for your lunch, if the place designates you get a lunch hour, take your lunch hour, because it's yours. Even though they pay blah, 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 it's like you need that time to kind of reset the rest of the day sometimes. Or, even if it's a 5-minute break or something like that, a lot of people need that, because you can reset your brain, and then you can actually work better, because you're not so, about everything. And same with your time away from work, like that is incredibly valuable time,
Yeah, because you spend the majority of your time you are at work. So the time that you're not there, you need to be spending it on things that are of value to you other than work. Because you are already valuing your job by giving them 8+ hours of your life.
The agreement is you will go in and work X hours, and they will pay you X dollars an hour for said work. Everything beyond that is, that's it. That's all the two sides owe each other. I know a lot of people want to have loyalty to where they work and, they've taken care of me. And it's like, yeah, they would have taken care of anybody else if they were doing the same. It's like, you're not as special as you think. In the end, if you cost them too much money, you're out the door. They don't they don't care about, you have a family, so, and again, I'm not saying it has to be black and white, but definitely value, not just you, Jen. I'm just saying in general.
Yes. In the general sense.
Yeah.
I get you. And I agree. I do. And I will say, I hate to use, general terms and stuff, but women do seem to have a harder time, with the codependent job than men do. Men seem to have an easier time of separating work from emotion. But, not to say they don't have that issue, but women have a tendency, it seems, to be a little bit more emotional about their work than men do. And that's part of the reason that, it's so important to kind of really focus on not internalizing, not making it emotional, focusing on the facts, keeping it very factual, because life moves smoother that way. I mean, I'll be honest, I usually, traditionally, work better with men than I do with women because it is less emotional for the most part. And that is my fact based upon my opinion.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's your experience, right. Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at with it. And, we'll see. It was a good week. I had a little bit of a rough day today just because there's so much to do around the house. It gets overwhelming. And when you get overwhelmed, you have a tendency to do nothing.
Yep.
Yep. But I did get a couple things accomplished, which were good. And I did get some extra sleep, which was good, to kind of help balance me out. And I have a play date set up with a friend of mine for next Friday. So that's good. And I went out with a couple friends last night, which was also very good. Unexpected because I got up so early to work yesterday. And we are recording on Sunday, folks. We're trying to put a timetable together. But Saturday, I went out with a couple friends that night. And I didn't take a nap or anything, but I made it to midnight.
Whoa.
Yeah, which is really unusual for me.
Yeah.
But I did make it almost to midnight, which was pretty awesome.
Wow.
So all in all, it's been very positive. Some ahas and some wins, and definitely some odd places, but it was good. It was a good week.
Good.
How about you, Brian?
This has been a really odd week for me because I had, overall, I think, really good week. But I've had this week really high highs and really low lows. And I've had this in the past, but boy, did I feel it this week. And the last 2 weeks I've gone out, I think 3 nights each week, which for me is an incredible amount of nights to go out. But this week, Tuesday, we went to trivia and had a good time. It was pretty much the same as it always is, just hanging out and playing trivia and having a good time. We took third, and then on Wednesday, I went out with a friend and had a great time. And it was really the peak of my week. And it was, interesting because I'm sitting there going, when I got home, I was like, oh boy, tomorrow, meaning Thursday, is probably going to be rough, because, 2 days in a row, usually it's tough for me to do 2 days in a row. Usually then I'm going to need at least a day to recover, and, but I noticed that Thursday I was okay. Now, something to throw in here is a bit of a side note is that I mentioned last week that I was starting another medicine, And the point of that medicine is to give me more energy. So there is potential that could be why I didn't have as much of a hangover, maybe. I might be riding that first, the first week high of a new medicine, basically. But then, Friday, is when Tony and I usually record Salty Language. And, oh my.
I was like, was the dog getting hurt?
I know.
No, Sharon's home.
Goodness.
I'll mute.
I didn't know what the heck the sound was at first. It didn't sound like a dog. I thought he had a cat there or something. Friday, I just was not really feeling like podcasting. And, and T had sent me a text and was like, hey, what are you up to? And I was like, we're supposed to podcast tonight. And he was like, I wanted to see if you wanted to head over to, maybe have a couple drinks or something. And I was like, and I'm standing there going, man, that just sounds like the right thing to do. So I texted Tony and was like, hey, I'm just not feeling this tonight. Can we, record another night or something? And, so I can head over with T. And he was cool about it, ended up joining us later. And, we just went over there and hung out. It was the bar we go to is real chill. It's, it was nice. Just had a few drinks, listened to the band play that was there and everything. And it was just, it was one of those just really just good nights, just hanging out with my boys and, no stress, no nothing. 'Cause it was, just hanging out.
Oh, hold on. Let me get this straight. So instead of sitting at home in your cave and being social via cave with one human, you make a conscious choice to go out into public with many humans and be social.
Yes.
Wow.
And that just felt right.
Yeah, and it did.
And that felt like the right thing to do.
That's what I wanted to go do, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And
golf
yeah. Yeah, that's why I said
that's huge.
That's why I said I knowingly can look back at this week and go, this was a really good week for me.
Wow.
Again, I've been as close to happy as I've been in a while. Like it was just I kind of had that feeling all week kind of a deal, so it's been really nice. But then, let's see, last night, or starting Friday night, and it was kind of there Thursday too, but starting Friday night, I just started feeling just awful, just depressed. And I mean, deep depressed. Like, almost called a crisis line depressed.
Wow.
And I was like, what the heck? And now again, first week of a medicine could be, something's, my body's still evening out from, from that. So it could be that, cause, any of those kind of medicines, they all run the risk of, making you have darker thoughts. And, some of it's not that though. Some of it I know exactly what it is. And I'm not going to go into it exactly on here. I was going to tell you guys before and I forgot, but it's one of the few things where it's real close to the vest, so anyway, but I just a ton of self-doubt and wallowing and just, to put it the best way I can, Heno, it was an Alice in Chains kind of night.
I know that night.
And and that's why when you mentioned that earlier a little bit, I was laughing.
Yep.
And I love Alice in Chains and I'll listen to them anytime, but if you ever saw my, what I'm currently listening to and you start seeing song after song after song.
It starts with Down in a Hole.
Yeah. Well, actually what I did
I'll be calling.
I started up Pandora and I put it on, a grunge channel because that's home. That's the comfort zone for me. As we mentioned a little bit ago, that was, and that's exactly what it was. And I seriously was sitting there, like, listening to that. And I was, like, just singing along with the stuff, feeling every line of everything I heard. And, there was, it was interesting because on one hand, I got a huge reminder of how much Chris Cornell was part of my formative years. Because like every other song was Soundgarden, Audio Slave, Temple of a Dog. It was like, there's so much of a catalog there of his that just kept popping up. But anyway, it was just amazing how much of that just popping up, and it felt like home, but at the same time, you could snap your fingers and I can feel that 12 to 14-year-old Bryan sitting in his room, doodling, and listening to this music, isolating, keeping all this to himself. And I was just like, man, and that's why I was like, in my head today, I was kind of, I'm still doing it today. And I've been like, I am going to talk about this on the podcast because I'm forcing myself to not internalize it. This is how I get it out of my head, so, and it's weird because, the pendulum of a week kind of a thing. Like I said, at one point I felt a really good high and then feeling this deep of a low. Now the other side of this is that's really good to some extent because I don't feel extremes much. And if I do, it's usually only the depression. So there's a lot of times where if I get that high, but I'm going to have to deal with that low also, it's so worth it to me because just for that minute I got to fly by the sun, before my wings melted, and,
but that's the key right there is that now you feel it's worth it. And other points in your life, I don't think you would have said the same thing.
No, because I wouldn't have been able to recognize the highs.
Yeah, and the little high that you would have been able to recognize, you would say is not worth it.
Right.
But the fact now that you can put things in perspective and recognize the fact that to you, it is worth it to have the highs, even if it means you have to deal with the lows that go along with it. That's huge. Yeah. And it's another huge movement.
And that's the thing is I'm feeling myself a lot lately recognizing wins. And
wonderful.
Which is awesome because like I can't put this any other way than this isn't in any way negative, but Jen harped on me for years about how I need to look at the little wins because I was big picture. If it's not me winning like a house or something, then I didn't win, or it's like, if it's not some grand scope and it's like, no, you know what? If this happens and you had a great night, you had a great night, and Wednesday, as I was talking about, I was in the moment the whole night, not for 5 minutes, not for an hour, but for hours. I was in the moment, which I couldn't tell you the last time I've been in the moment for that long. Even like when I go see music, it's usually only a certain amount of time and then I kind of start zoning out a little bit. Even when we were in Chicago at the Van Gogh thing, once you and I were both even like, I've hit my fill, I was starting to be like, yeah, I see art, but I'm not processing any more of it. Yeah. That kind of thing. And to do that, in that moment, I even was like, this is awesome. So that's why I said I can look at this last week and go, man, there was win, and it's like, unfortunately, the only thing that scares me a little bit is that the last couple days, the down part of it has been significantly down. It's like I worried myself a little bit. I'm not going to lie. And like I said, I was sitting there, I had the crisis line pulled up and I was like, because I just was kind of at a point where I was almost feeling like, I need something. I need someone to basically tell me it's all right. And instead what I just turned to basically, eventually, my musical heroes from the 90s, they kind of brought me back.
But that's, my life is like that. I think that's normal.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. For me, it isn't though,
Yeah, but, exactly. You're not used to having a down day.
Yeah.
That you're used to having depression.
Yeah. I'm really used to having like down weeks,
But I have down days.
Yeah.
I have down weekends. Mm-hmm. It's very, my good friend Bill, I love it when he explains this. He's like, you're lying in the bed at the hospital you want to see the line going up and down on the heart meter.
Yes.
Not a straight line.
Yeah.
That means there are ups and there are downs.
Yep.
That's living.
Exactly.
A straight line is not living.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly. I mean, for more reasons than one. I mean, with that example, you're certainly dead. But yeah. But that's what, and you know, it's got me thinking a little bit though, because, that's what I do. 'Cause, you know, go figure, I was overthinking while I was in a depression spiral. Crazy, I know. Yeah, crazy.
Shocker.
I know. But, you know, it made me think that over the last few years, I have gone to therapy, I've read articles, I've tried to change my framework of my mind, and various stuff. And, you know, part of what bothers me is, and I've done this for years and years, we talked about it a long time ago a little bit when we talked about body image stuff, which is every day when I look in the mirror, I have to fight to feel any positivity. I don't like what I see, you know? And it kind of struck me as, it's so weird to me that I'm willing to do and be open-minded about trying so many things to get my mind right. But I won't do anything to try to get my body right. Like, and I don't mean for body image reasons, I just mean for health and such. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, and the fact that exercise, you know, has notoriously been shown to help with depression and various other stuff. But it's so weird, and I know I'm not the only one on this. I know tons of people, because with depression, it's hard to get up and move, you know? Mm-hmm. But it's also hard to reframe and catch things in the moment and stop this. But clearly I'm working on that, and I'm showing that I'm doing that. But, you know, it's like, why is it that it's so hard to actually do, not just even exercise, but just move, you know?
It just doesn't surprise me, because to me it's just like you're just not ready yet.
Yeah,
like it was like you know, for me, getting into recovery, I took care of one thing, and did I want to take care of other things? Sure, I did.
Yeah,
but it took a long time before I was ready to take on other things.
That makes
sense.
And
when I mean take them on, I mean honestly take them on.
Yeah, exactly.
Like. Right. So like right off the bat, I made changes in various things. Like you could easily make a change with your eating right now.
Yeah.
That's not a problem. Mm. But it took me, you know, years and years and years before I was ready to how you're phrasing it, which is approach the other things in your life with the same zeal that you've approached this one thing.
Yeah.
And to sit there and say, like, you know, why is it that I can't, you know, take care of my debt like I took care of my alcoholism, and why, you know, and
yeah, that makes sense.
Codependency or whatever, you know, you just name the ism that I have. It's like, why can't I hit it?
Right.
Like I can hit this, you know,
yeah.
and, you know, part of it, I can come up with all sorts of logical things. Well, you know, one deals with abstinence, you know, I don't drink.
Yeah.
Well, I can't not spend money.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't not eat. I can't not have relationships.
Yeah.
You know, there's no abstinence there.
Right.
You know, but it still comes to this thing where it's like, I just go, well, I'm not ready yet for that. I haven't hit my bottom yet. You know, and those are things, they're not excuses.
Yeah. Well,
but what they are is it's still hope. What I'm doing is I'm giving myself hope. I'm saying I'm not ready yet.
Yeah.
But I will be.
Right. That makes total sense. I hadn't considered that. You're right, though. It does. What I think the weird part to me is that I can't even apply a little of the logic to it. And that, you know, like, take for example, okay, if I have a to-do list that has 20 items on it, right, and I get up and I don't do any of it, I'll forgive myself, right? Or even if I do one or two things, I'll be like, you know what, you've had, you know, depression day, blah, all these things. I don't even do that with it's not like I get like on an exercise bike and I go, well, you only rode like 15 minutes, you know, kind of like you were talking about a while ago with like the treadmill about not guilting yourself for not getting on for like 2 hours or whatever, you know, it's like, if I'm on it 10 minutes, that's 10 minutes, you know, that counts. And it's like, why is it that if I catch myself framing something different, I'm like, that's a win? Or, oh, I didn't do as well today. That's okay. You'll get it tomorrow, basically. But then when it comes to exercise, it's all or nothing. You know, it's like, so And I feel in a lot of ways
I think there's a list that you have that deals with that all or nothing thing.
Oh, I know that. Yeah. For sure. It's distorted thinking. I've 100% owned it. That's why I said it's funny that I'll apply this logic that I'm learning to one section, and I've even seen it in other things where I've applied it into other things, but then when it comes to this, it's just like, you know.
See, that's once again, it's like I just sit there and I go, it's not surprising, and it makes perfect sense because you're in the human realm there. You know, I really think that I hate to say this, but for any of us that you know, kind of were born behind the 8 ball, I like to call it, because we have various isms, whether they're chemical imbalances or you know, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
You know, being human means to basically live in that distorted thinking list.
Yeah,
it's kind of inhuman for us to go outside of it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I joke about this all the time when I'm with my men's group. It is not normal for us to be sitting in a room talking about our feelings and being honest. What's normal is all of us guys at the bar right now.
Yeah.
Right.
At 7 o'clock on a Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I look at it as like, it's perfect. It's very normal to look at something with, you've just surpassed normal when it comes to mental health.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. I can see that.
I can see that.
Mm-hmm. It is just funny to me, you know, because I really, it's a source that, like, it's something that's bothered me for a long, long time, you know, and it is just one of those things that I want to fix. And it's weird because I feel like mentally I want to fix this. Like, I want to work on this. But, you know, it's like one of those times where it's like, you know, my brain's telling me to do it, but the rest of me is just like, nah. Like, you know, like, like, listen, do you know what you're requiring of us?
Yeah, that's only like when our good buddy Clint pops in and shares something about how he's doing on his physical health changes that he's doing in his life.
Yeah.
I look at it as he's gone beyond being human now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's gone. He's now Superman.
Yeah,
because it's
awesome.
that's hard stuff. And I'll tell you, if you're being Superman, be Superman. You know, feel it, live it. You know, because here's the thing that happens, and I think this is a lot more when people deal with physical changes in their lives, and whether you want to call it, you know, losing weight or shape shifting or whatever terminology you want to use. Mm-hmm. People yo-yo. They just do.
Yeah.
They go back and forth and back and forth. And to me that, you know, that's that's normal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. And we have our moments where we're super, you know, man, or, you know, Wonder Woman. And then we have our days when we're just, you know, just Clark Kent, or, you know, it's like, and I think you need to celebrate your days where you got your chest out and your arms and your cape is flapping in the wind. You know, it doesn't happen all the time,
right?
But we can all achieve it. You know, like you said, I totally get that, because I go, why can't I approach, you know, these other issues in my life with the same, you know, energy and passion,
or even, you know, just logic. Yeah.
Well, that,
you know,
and you know what? That's the one thing. And this is, all right, so this is super 12-step program guy talking right here. If logic was the solution, we would have thought our way out of these problems a long time ago.
Yeah, that's true.
It has nothing to do with logic. It has nothing to do with knowledge. It has nothing to do with intellect. Because how many times have I been explained what the damage that, you know, that alcohol was doing to my liver? Or how many times has the cigarette smoker heard all those little things about how much nicotine it costs to, you know, takes to kill a rat and blah, blah, blah. With all that knowledge, it doesn't matter.
Right.
How many times do you hear about, you know, the effects of sugar? How many documentaries have you watched that make you feel sick to your stomach about the food that you put into your body.
That you're probably eating while watching the documentary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change anything, does it?
No, it doesn't. You're right.
No, and this is something that we talk about so much in 12 steps, is that if knowledge was the answer, then we would have solved this a long time ago. But it's not. It's something deeper than that.
Right.
And you can call it higher power, you can call it divine inspiration, you can call it your whatever it is you want to call it. But something took us out of our bottoms. Whatever your bottom was.
Yeah.
Something made you finally go, you know what? I want to go see a therapist. I'm going to go see if I can get on some new medication. Something finally made you said, you know what? I've had it. And I believe that we all will eventually get to that point. And my big hope is, it's an honest fear. It's the whole idea of like, don't quit until the miracle happens. Meaning just keep trying and eventually it's going to work out. And I just hope that, that somebody doesn't die before that, especially because some of this stuff is life or death. Mm-hmm. Health stuff can be life or death.
Yeah.
Hopefully you'll find a way to change before you end up a diabetic or, whatever it is.
Right.
But it's just a matter of, you're ready when you're ready.
Right. Mm-hmm. That all makes sense. Yeah, it really does. I hadn't thought about that. So that's why I said, it's just like when that hit me, and I was just kind of sitting there and I'm just applying it and it's just like, it is similar to, like, cause I was basically approaching it the same way that I was approaching the mental health stuff, which is, you take the distorted worksheet, you apply it to what you're thinking about, and that helps you with the reframing of things, and, that's why I was kind of like, well, why won't I do this with the other? But that all makes sense. You're right. It's clearly I'm not at a point that it's really a rock bottom. It may feel like it, but it truly isn't. That I haven't hit that, catalyst,
like I would call Clint,
yeah.
All right. What is it and he might actually literally bring up some really ridiculous thing that is totally unique to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you'll sit there and you'll go, all right, well, I hope that happens to me too.
Yeah.
Or he might, who knows, but that's where I love about this idea that we talk to people that we can relate to, because maybe they're going to say something that goes, oh, I hadn't thought about that yet.
Right. Exactly.
You look at the person that says, you know what, and this is the big thing with why 12-step programs work so well, is because we surround ourselves with other people that have gone past where I was. Mm-hmm. Somebody, the guy, we just talked about this last week. If I'm in the hospital suffering from some acute, alcohol withdrawal, and two guys walk in and one guy's got 30 years and the other's got 30 days, the guy with 30 days I want to talk to that guy, because 30 years I can't even comprehend that.
Yeah.
How do I want to talk to the guy that made it 30 days without a drink. That's why when newcomers say, what do I have to offer? I'm like, you've got the most to offer, because you've done something more than they have. Mm-hmm. If they've got 1 day and you've got 2, well, guess what? You made it 2, and that you can be an inspiration. Mm-hmm. But it's that idea of relating. Mm-hmm. That guy with 30 days can say something to me that I can completely relate to, and I love this idea of that we share our experience, because I can sit there and I go, oh wow, yeah, you know exactly how I feel right now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, that makes perfect sense, yeah.
And that you get that opportunity to hear somebody else tell their story of all right, how did you get past this? What did you do?
Right.
And I've seen plenty of people walk in, and it doesn't matter whether it's, debt or overeating or, any type of addictions or anything like that. I've seen people come again and hear the same stuff over and over again, but they keep coming and they keep trying and they keep talking about it, and eventually, boom, something changes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
And so it's like, don't lose hope. Don't quit before the miracle happens.
Right.
Because I guarantee it will.
Yeah. You just got to hold on tight and stick to it.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is just that idea of like, the main thing, and this is what I talk about a lot with with money stuff, is the biggest threats, and this applies to everything. This applies to mental health stuff. It applies to everything. Is when we are vague, is when we are in the greatest danger.
Yeah.
Right? When we are not shining a light on the change, because why do we isolate? Because we don't want to look in the mirror. We don't want to see what everyone else is doing. We want to stay in our little hole of doubt and fear and anxiety and depression and whatever else it is. It's safe there because no one's going to question this. No one's going to do this. Every day that you shine a light on it is another opportunity that you might get past it one day.
Yeah.
As long as you don't go into that place of being vague or being in denial is the other word, and all that stuff. And you bringing it up is shining a light on it.
Yeah. Because it is. I mean, it's, that was kind of the whole point of it, which was realistically, I'm at that point where I'm looking for the catalyst. That's really what I'm doing with this is it's like, well, why am I doing that? Trying to figure out why I can't seem to spark, movement that in that direction. But you're right. I hadn't considered that, it's just something that's kind of got to happen on its own a little bit. But, the other side of it is that, with depression and anxiety, I have to be careful that I don't just sit back and let nothing happen. There's at some point where it's like, okay, well, you got to start putting a foot in front of the other one here, cause this is not going to happen if you don't do anything,
But look at what you have been doing.
Yeah.
I mean, you have been actually taking steps. You have been getting out.
Yeah.
You've been, and you can't disregard that.
No, not at all.
So it's there. I think it is.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot to be said about, hey, try not to take on too many things at once, too.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. No, it's very much, as I've talked in therapy, about like my anxieties and stuff, it's very much like my therapist has pointed out, that you want to push yourself a little bit outside your comfort zone, but you don't, like me, I don't drive because of anxieties and stuff. I wouldn't get into a car and go onto an expressway,
yeah, exactly.
It's like, okay, baby steps, maybe around the neighborhood, or whatever. And it's that kind of thing. You don't just throw yourself into the deep end essentially because that usually doesn't warrant success, so it's kind of the same idea here but it is one of those things I always try to keep in mind that it's going to be a harder hill to climb because everything in my brain's going to be telling me don't, type of a thing, which is the craziest part of it because on one hand, my brain is telling me all the awful things, and yet my brain is also going, don't do anything to fix it, So it's a tough fight. And, I'm glad you brought your points up, Henno, because I really hadn't considered that. So again, kind of getting the group benefit a bit.
That's the best part.
It is.
It's getting, is when you have something and you're thinking about it and stuff, and just by talking about it, you can get a whole new perspective. Yeah. It's awesome.
Right. Cause
I love that. I just love that you're even bringing it up.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's what I mean is that the way I'm looking at this right now is this is the silver lining from the overthinking, because sitting there tearing myself apart brick by brick, now it's like, really though it's like almost like now I'm going, okay, well, since I've already torn myself asunder, can I build? But that's
awesome.
That's the reframing, that's the positive thinking, because in the past I wouldn't have. I would have just been like, oh no, rubble feels good,
Nope, I love that. So you tear yourself apart, can I rebuild?
Yeah.
That's the next day, or the next step is rebuild.
Yeah, well, it's like, look, if I'm going to destroy myself, mentally, I'm at least going to try to figure out something that's a win from it. That's so.
Reminds me of something someone said about fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So my philosophy on fighting, which people hate this, but I refuse to fight if there's no benefit at the end for me. So, if I fight with someone, it will not end until you can tell me what you're taking away from it. It could be something as simple as do not say that word to Jen because it makes her angry. That's your takeaway. That's your takeaway. But each one of us, we will have a takeaway because I will not waste all of that energy in time, in thought, in emotion on fighting with someone if there is no purpose.
Yeah.
Now, do I get a moment to be in my cave and figure that moment out or that reason out?
Exactly.
I don't have to come up with it right away because, I know for myself, sometimes I just need to go in my cave for a little bit, and when I come back out as a man, I'll have something for you.
Yeah.
Yep. The fight is never officially over.
I'm just picturing.
Gotcha.
I'm just picturing. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm just
We can take
picturing
breaks.
Henno going into his cave and then coming back with a saber-tooth tiger pelt.
I found my reason.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, that was one of the I think I was in my early 20s, and it was the first time I actually tried to cohabitate with another female, and I'd heard about this concept of, men need to be in their cave, but I'd never really, because that was back in the old, what is it? Women are from Mars, men are from Venus, or is it the other way around?
Yeah.
Whatever it was, where that concept came out. And we had gotten into a fight, and she totally had that thing where it's like, this is not over until we've made up. And I said, I'm not making up until I got to go for a walk.
Yeah.
And I need to, and it was after I did that, and I was like, and I gained some perspective or whatever it was, and I was like, oh, this is that thing where they talk about men need to be in their cave for a little while. Because I literally walked back, and it wasn't like I'm all better now, but it was at least I'd let go of, so many things where I'm like, okay, wow, I can actually now own my part in something. I can actually, because when you're in the middle of the thick of the thing, and I think this goes on with the battles in our heads too, like, we're talking about like, why can't I do something new? We're in the middle of the fight. Our defenses are up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's either that thing where you step away, you gain perspective, you meditate, you quiet your brain, you gain perspective, or you just hit rock bottom and you gain perspective.
Yeah.
But it really is. It's that I keep hearing it is like, you surrender when you quit fighting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone has this weird, not everyone, that's, boy, talk about distorted thinking. I have a tendency to not want to, I have a tendency to think surrender is a bad thing, but it's the best thing in the world because it tells me I have decided to quit fighting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just listened to Tim Ferriss' podcast a few weeks ago where the whole point of it was he asked a bunch of very successful people how they know when it's time to give up versus to keep fighting. And it's that concept to where basically they're like, look, at some point you have to realize with some ventures, you're just beating your head against the wall. And it's like, you're not doing anybody any good. So basically retreat, surrender, however you want to look at it. And, you can relaunch from that point. You don't have to, it's not necessarily a loss. It's just a point to where you're like, I can't move this any more forward here. So let's start a new path kind of a thing to where I take everything I learned from that and then, I apply it, and I thought, a lot of the people on that gave some really great tips about how they, they don't keep fighting a futile fight. It's like, if, like Jen said, you know, if there's no win at the end, why am I doing this? And that really was what it comes down to, you know, that isn't going to make me better or happier.
It's interesting is that it's so much of this is ego. It's so much
sure.
ego related that we don't want to give up.
Mm-mm.
We don't want to not win.
No.
Ego says that I need to conquer this mountain. You know, it's like, and anyone that gets that movie reference, send me a tweet. It's really obscure. But I mean, it's amazing how strong ego is, and it also has to do with our recoveries. Mm. Our ego tells us, no, you can't, you don't ask for help.
Yeah.
No, you don't want to do what they tell you should do. You can handle this on your own.
Yeah.
You've got this.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, but I've got a proven track record where I had nothing.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
Right. Yeah.
I needed help, you know, but ego told me, nope, you don't need that.
Yeah.
And you don't surrender. And words like, especially those words, you know, those hot button words, you know, like, you know, acceptance and these things where, you know, where I admit to something, you know, no, we don't do this.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I am not powerless.
Yeah. I'm not weak.
I'm powerless over nothing.
Yeah.
Really? Really?
Yeah.
Huh?
I'll show you how powerless I am by spinning out of control.
Totally. That was me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's honestly, it's amazing what we do to ourselves, you know, with the ego, the id, and then, you know, all of the stuff that's going on inside of us. It's amazing we are able to put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah. And that's why there was this dude, and he's passed. He just had some horrible health problems. But man, the dude was huge. And I think I've talked to him about him on the show before. His name was Kevin. And Kevin is one of the few people that actually got out of an outlaw biker group, like Hell's Angels style. Mm. Very few of those people actually get to leave alive.
Yeah.
You know, when you're in for life, because you've done some things that are really bad, and you know you've got the dirt on everyone. But he is one of the few people, because he has such integrity. He had, you know, he was an outlaw biker. He got sober. The guy is like 6'7" and all massive. I mean, he's just huge, and tattoos, and he's the guy walks down the street. It's the scariest thing that you've ever seen.
Yeah.
I guarantee it. And the biggest heart, the biggest softy you have, I mean, it's unbelievable. He went out, he would go into high schools and he would talk about, you know, drug use and alcohol and all that kind of stuff like that. So, you know, I knew he had experience with younger people, and I had a sponsee, and that I was, you know, I was hoping to help this person. And, you know, I just didn't know, I couldn't relate to him, because when I was 21 years old, I was drinking, and he's 21 years old saying, I don't want to drink.
Oh,
and he had a lot of consequences too. He was on probation and some serious stuff, like suspended sentence kind of stuff, where if you get busted, you're going to prison for 6 years.
Right.
You know, that sentence kicks in.
Yeah.
And this kind of stuff. And I just didn't, you know, it's like, do I do the tough love? Do I, you know, set demands? Blah, blah. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to ask Kevin about this. And he was sitting on his Harley outside one day, and I walked up to him, and he said, you know, and I expected him to have this, you know, real like hardcore, this is what you do, this, and this. And he says, you know, I like to take a big, soft pillow approach to all this. And he was talking about the idea that our brains are out to get us. Mm-hmm. They're not there to help us.
Yeah.
Our ego is out to screw us over every step of the way. And it doesn't matter how hard you get. It doesn't matter how, you know, tough love you do and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. You know, the miracle happens when the miracle happens.
Yeah.
And like he talked about, he didn't share this, but it was in line with this, he's basically saying, like, I'm just a witness. That's all I am.
Yeah.
I'm there to witness somebody else's miracle. I'm not going to make it happen for them.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not going to be, you know, and it was the most, it really hit it really hit me. And it was a great lesson for me to realize that, it was the same thing with me. Mm-hmm. I was my worst enemy.
Yeah.
And so we need to, treat ourselves with kid gloves. We need to have a kinder, gentler approach with ourselves.
Yeah.
I agree 100%.
You're right. And we've talked about that before, about how, if a friend walked up to us and said some of the stuff we say to ourselves, we'd say to ourselves, what are you doing? Don't, I've had that actually over the last few weeks. Somebody I was talking with online kind of, was really hard on themselves. And I was like, and I just copied it and I'm like, pretend I said this to you, And I was like, how would you react? And they were, and it was like, oh my God, you're right. And it's like, yeah, It's like, it gives you that opportunity to step away from being too close to things. And then you're like, wow, yeah, if you said that to me, I'd be like, are you okay? Or stop being so hard on yourself. It's because it's the truth. We really are. I mean, I know for a fact I am. I've been beating myself up mentally for a long, long time. And it's
You're probably pretty good at it.
Oh yeah, I'm very good at it. Like I said, I haven't had a real down day until the other night. And yeah, I wouldn't have gone 12 rounds, that's for sure. It would have probably been a knockout in the second. And it was pretty brutal. And but I'm again, it's why I want to talk about it on the podcast, because I want people to know that even though I'm doing the best I can with the, medicines and therapy and different stuff, that it's still, that demon is still there, and just when you're not looking, boom, right,
well, that's it.
Here comes the surprise, right, and you're done,
I wanted to ask you why, so, you're ready to call a crisis hotline. Mm-hmm. Why didn't you? What
really?
What made it so that you didn't need to?
Really? Well, here's the thing. I probably did need to. But I'm stubborn and I'm very much I have that mentality of I'll fix this, and I think that's what it was really, was that at a certain point I don't want to admit. I think it's really that I'm afraid that I'll feel as though I've regressed on the progress I've made. But
I see what you're saying.
But looking back at that, and if anyone else is in the same position, that's okay. That's going to happen. I mean, baseball players hit slumps and then they get out of those slumps. They go back to being great at what they're doing. So, it's, and really this is what it is. Depression is that you hit slumps, and sometimes they're worse than others, but that doesn't mean that you have undone what you've learned. It just means maybe you take a couple steps back, and maybe you have to retrace those steps, but sometimes, repetition's not a bad thing. But yeah, I probably should have, just, if for no other reason, to disrupt my mind, like the thought process,
Yeah.
Instead, go ahead.
Did you make a smaller attempt at that? Like, did you reach out to anybody on Twitter or any of your groups or anything?
I was talking with somebody a little bit that night, and we actually I told him about how I was listening to the music I was listening to and all that, and she was like, well, as long as you don't start writing emo poetry, I think you'll be okay. So it's
oh, that's funny.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So, that helps too. And it's, the other side of it, it was late too. So, that does remove people from me being able to contact them. But, there's, like you said, there's groups I'm in and stuff like that even if I don't openly tell them what's going on, sometimes just laughing or, changing the mindset can be enough. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I should have done more. Luckily I wasn't in a dangerous place. It was just a point to, it was just really like 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 if it was an actual fight, somebody would step in and be like, okay, enough, like if this was right. MMA, the referee would be pushing the guy off him, kind of a situation. It was just a brutal beat up, and, like I said, now I'm just okay, how can I make something good come out of this?
Yeah.
So.
That's the best thing you can do with it, though.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful that, you were able to work yourself out of it.
Yeah.
And that's great that you were. But the fact that you know that you have other choices and other options at your fingertips, next time, if you need them, don't be shy to use them.
I know, and that's why, like I said, it all, just all goes back to ego. It all just goes right back to that.
That darn ego.
I don't want to admit that I slipped backwards or I don't want to. One of my biggest things is always, I have such a huge fear of failure. I don't want to feel like a failure, and I don't really understand why I have such an immense fear to it anymore. It isn't that I've been or feel like I've really been a failure in life. It's just something that I've always had that. Like, if I feel like I'm on the cusp of being a failure, I would run. Like if I were in a class I was failing, I'd drop the class before I failed it. Like that kind of situation, so, and that always will be in the back of my head. That's something I have to constantly work on. So, yeah. So I hope everyone enjoyed the look inside my head tonight.
Thank you for being so vulnerable and doing that.
Well, I know. That's what I was going to say. Yeah. Thank you for bringing all that up, because it just opened up such a great conversation.
Yeah.
And hopefully maybe we could help somebody else with that. And it doesn't happen unless we open up to each other.
Right. And
absolutely.
And that's why I said from minute one on this podcast that was part of my goal, was to be, pretty open. Obviously, there's still some stuff that, I keep to myself or is just between me and my therapist or whatever. But,
Huh?
No.
I was just agreeing with you.
Oh, okay. But, because of that, because, I felt alone for so long, and I hope, I want the conversation to not die down. I want people to keep talking about all of these things. So even though it's not an easy thing for a lot of people to talk about, and sometimes, as you mentioned earlier, Heno, it's just the same talk, Sometimes there's no progress, and people, we all get tired of kind of the no solution talk. Eventually you're just like, all right, I've heard this enough. So there you go.
Well, and that's why we're doing this as well.
Yep.
And that's why if it got to the point, and we ask Jen all the time, so Jen, what are you going to do differently this time?
Yep.
Or, what do you, it's like, it's okay to come in. It's okay to come in and say, hey, I did the same thing again. But at the end of it, just like Jen with the fights, well, what are you going to take away from this that you're going to do differently next time?
Right.
What are you going to do differently? And I'd be like, if I knew someone that just, kept relapsing over and over again, okay, well, what are you going to do differently this time?
Yeah.
Just name one thing.
Yeah. Right, because otherwise you're not learning a dang thing. If you just keep doing the same thing over and over, it's like, at some point, why do you keep running headfirst into the wall instead of using the door?
But headfirst into a wall is so much cooler, dude.
As, you know what? We all seem to love doing it. Yeah.
Oh, yes. We all have that little guy inside of us, don't we?
Yeah. Hey, it'd be fun. You should run headfirst into this wall, but there's a door right there. Nah, listen.
You realize the wall's only 5 feet wide. Yeah, but man, I'm going through this thing.
Yeah. It's like all you have to do is go through the wall. The door, you gotta turn the handle, you gotta pull, you gotta
walk around it. I have to make a step to the right.
Right. Probably close the door. It's like, you're right. I should just go through the wall.
Walls are gonna be epic.
Yeah.
Oh, good times.
With that, folks, I think we're at that point, right?
Oh, actually, I had one more thing I want to bring up before we go off here. So Heno and I have mentioned before about doing a song or a podcast where we talk about depression playlists. But my pal James and his friends over at the 12 for a Penny podcast actually did that very thing this week. So
did they really?
Yeah, they did. So I'll have the link in the show notes if anyone wants to listen, or they're on Twitter at 12 for a Penny. It's the number 12, then four is the word. So it's 124 FORAPENNY. If you want to get the link that way too. So yeah, I just thought it was kind of funny when I saw the list or saw the topic. So
that's great.
That's too funny.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, with that, folks, if you want to continue the conversation with us, you can reach out to us very, very easily. You can reach me on Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with a G. You can reach us through our website at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com. And you can also reach us via email at thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com. How about you, Henno?
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Henno, or just look up El Henno. Either one works.
Right.
You can find me on Facebook at Henno Heiter, also Messenger. That is, I can be found on Facebook Messenger. Mm-hmm. Same thing. And all the various other social medias in one way or another.
Yeah, probably. Whether he's just
pretty much now.
Yeah, lurking creep, or he's actively participating. Yeah.
I know. I was like, I was going through my phone the other day. I'm like, okay, I need to do some organizing. So I'm using when you actually have tools that you can use, like creating folders.
Yeah.
So I created a social media folder, and I'm like going, wow, I actually am on Snapchat, Instagram, blah, blah. I don't do much, but I have them all.
Yep. Yeah, I do too. Yep. Absolutely.
Somebody could get a hold of me there.
Yeah. Listen, this was a blitz of a week for my Snapchat. I posted twice. Normally it's like once a month, basically. I'm so bad about it. So, yeah. You can also find the show over on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/crazylifepodcast. You can find the show also on Twitter to see when new episodes go up at the Crazy Life Pod. You can find me on Twitter at Stunami. The other podcast I'm on can be found at salty_language or at saltylanguage.com. And that show is not safe for work. I don't remember where I was going. It's just funny. I just saw the link to my blog that I've needed to update for like 200 years. You can also check us out along with other shows over at tangentboundnetwork.com. There's all sorts of like nerdy podcasts and stuff over there that you may enjoy. And if you're an iTunes user, if you have a minute and you'd like to help us out, please rate, review, and subscribe. That helps us get found by people when they search a little easier. And same thing on Stitcher or other podcast apps. If you use the like or share buttons to kind of help us, or just retweet our tweets when they go out so that it'll show, or so other people can see them, or on Facebook too. If you see our posts, to share those. What am I forgetting here? Nothing? Okay. So we're not trained professionals, doctors, therapists, of any kind. We're just three people sharing our experiences and our opinions. Please do not mistake the show or use it as a replacement for therapy. And also, if you look stuff up on the internet or any of these articles we ever post or whatever, please don't use them as a self-diagnosis. Go to the doctor, get the estimate, and see what's going on, so you can get a good plan of attack. And then, I'm just blanking all of a sudden. If you're feeling, if you're feeling like I was the other night, or you're feeling suicidal, or that you may harm someone else, please do not act on that, as far as, following through with those things. But please reach out to someone. Don't be silly head like me. Call one of the crisis hotline numbers, or, suicide prevention hotline number, or go to a hospital, tell them you're having a mental health emergency, that kind of thing. Or reach out to a friend. Just try not to be alone. there's all sorts of help out there. There's tons of people that want to help you. Even if money is an issue, there's things out there to help. So, please utilize those tools that are out there. And then lastly, if you are, reach out to somebody, if you would, reach out, tell them you care about them, tell them you love them, tell them you appreciate them. Just ask them how they're doing, because you just never know when, it might make someone's day or it might save their life.
Absolutely. And with that, everyone, smile when you feel like it, but always make sure you're wiggling your toes.